Today I will be discussing the legend of Hua Mulan. We all know the legend of Hua Mulan, but we know her through today's world, through the representation that the Disney movie portrayed for us. The modern-day Hua Mulan in the Disney film of 1998 has more of a modern-day approach, which can be seen through her journey as she is falling in love with a dashing captain and with her dragon that follows her through her journey as well. This is the story of Mulan we all generally know due to the film. Through history, there is actually the true story of the legend of Hua Mulan. The legend of Hua Mulan is more empowering and interesting compared to the modern day approach and the period of time the legend was constructed. So let's get started. The story of Hua Mulan took place in the 4th and 16th century during the Northern Wei dynasty. The earliest we start to hear the legend of Mulan is through the poem of Ballad of Mulan. The poem Ballad of Mulan can also be called Mulan Shi. The poem was composed during the Northern Dynasty. It has 62 lines and 332 characters. The short poem discusses the story of a young girl replacing her father's place in the army when her father received an order to report for war. Mulan decided to join the army and fight in his place. In ancient China, only men could enlist in the army. So Mulan needed to do something. So the thing she decided to do was to disguise herself as a man. And then therefore, she was able to fight in the battle. She disguises herself for 12 years, for many more years to come. She endured and was part of the military life without her true gender being discovered. Mulan fought bravely in numerous battles and received many military awards. When she finished her term in fighting in the army, the emperor wanted to grant her a high-ranking post in the imperial court as a reward for all her achievements. However, Mulan declines and instead requests the use of a camel in order to return home to rejoin her family. When she was entering her house, she changes into her woman clothes. And then when she gets out, all her military troops are surprised because they couldn't believe that there was a young woman all along within their troops for such a long period of time. The legend of Hua Mulan became composed during the Northern Dynasty through the poem of Ballad of Mulan. And like I said previously, through that poem it is portrayed how women are not able to be warriors. But however, through the legend of Mulan, it explores how Mulan's and her relationship with her family, unlike many people at the time who actually went into battle with hoping of earning military acclaim and receiving meritorious promotions. Mulan's actions, on the other hand, are clearly motivated by her loyalty to her family, because she risked her personal safety in order to protect her father of old age. And then once she fulfilled her duty of going to war and fighting numerous battles, she seeks to return to her family. The Ballad of Mulan makes no mention of Mulan's enthusiasm to defend the Chinese nation, which is more on a focus of how she was inspired and only doing this to protect her father. And in this position, she shows devotion to her family. In this aspect, Mulan exhibits kindness, courage, and disregard for fame and fortune. Because of what she is doing, it's for her own personal goods and for her well-being of her family. This kind of makes her a model for women in the traditional culture, which has played a major part in today's society of how women have been viewed and how we have become those obstacles of inferiority and those gender norms are being broken. The time period associated with the ballad is particularly a cultural background of the Northern Dynasty, and more important, points to a possibility that the story could have come out of a non-Han Chinese tradition. That is, that Hua Mulan probably has a foreign origin at the early stage of her journey. The collapse of Han Dynasty in the year 2020 was followed by 3 centuries of bitter wars, unstable governments, frequent invasions, which brought tremendous disaster to the Chinese people. In the 4th century, northern China was repeatedly attacked by foreign tribes and experienced constant welfare, anarchy, and devastation, before the Tuba clan of the Xianbi people established a unified regime in the year 386. This regime became the Northern Wei, which is from the year 386 through 534, a dynasty in Imperial China whose central government was in the hands of foreign people instead of the Han nationality. The Zaimbi had been a northern nomadic people, and their women were skilled horse riders and archery. Other people living around the time and present day of the northern dynasty was the Mongolias. That's presented to the Ballad of Mulan is the characteristics of northern women, how it resembles northern folk songs, portrays heroic women and skilled archers and horse riders. The Ballad of Mulan, coming from this background, reinforces the story of Mulan through heroism and serving in the army, giving her loyalty to her family, which can be tied to the experience of tribe women during the Northern Dynasty. Okay, so there you have it, the original legend of Hua Mulan. Very interesting, right? The facts that how it took place in the Northern Dynasty, but may not have a Han origin, as well as the poem of ballad that the legend of Hua Mulan originated from, that still resonates in today's world, as you can see how the Disney representation of Mulan was created, referencing the ballad of Mulan, but not quite showing the representation the real legend of Mulan shows. Also knowing how women during the Northern Dynasty were portrayed through society, and how the legend of Hua Mulan can be tied to those women and what they experienced during the time, right? Not compared to the Disney presentation,